Hey, my name's Izzy. This is Rolling Virtual Cards, coming at you with another Commander deck review. This time, we've got Gandalf, the last Gandalf for the base set. Like the first set, there were some cards released later that I think have another Gandalf. We'll get to those later. Gandalf White Rider, Creature Swarm. This is a casual deck, as casual can get. These very pretty casual, and we'll get into it, and we'll see. This is according to this, it's a 2. I guess this would make it a 3 because there's 2 game changers and Teferi's Protection and Smothering Tithe. If you could tell, I made this deck over a year ago. So should I added these decks from a year ago? Maybe. Do I? No. Why? As I always tell everyone, these are base points. I don't like to give you a full-on 10 out of 10 deck. Just start here. Build off of it. See what you can do. So, let's start off with Gandalf White Rider. Okay? Zoom in a bit more. Here we go. Oh, whoa, no, that does not work. There we go. Gandalf White Rider is 3 and a white for 3/3 legendary creature avatar wizard. Vigilance. When you cast a spell, creatures you control get +1/+0 until end of turn, scry 1. When Gandalf White Rider dies, you may put it you may put it into its owner's library, 5th from the top. Don't. That second effect, don't. It's really funny. I get it. It took him like 5 days or something to get there. Don't. Okay? We don't want that. What we're here for is that first part. Okay? Vigilance is fine. It's okay. It's probably one of the weaker keywords, but that second part is what we're aiming for here. Okay? We are aiming for this nice little, whenever you cast a spell, creatures you control get +1/+0 to end of turn, scry 1. So, if you have a lot of creatures out, and then you cast a bunch of spells, like 5, they all get +5/+0. And you keep scrying each time, which is like a nice little card advantage. So, it's not bad. It's a mono-white creature deck. I mean, it feels like this is like, what if you made a standard CEDH deck almost, or not CEDH, but standard EDH deck, standard commander deck, right? Just like we're gonna go beat people up. So let's talk about the cards that we're gonna use to beat people up. There are 46 creatures. Buckle in, okay? First is Endless One. This is X mana for a 0/0 Eldrazi, and this one enters the battlefield with X1 counters on it. Okay? Yeah, you cast it for 1. It's a 1/1. That triggers him. Hangerback Walker. This is a 0/0, right? But for 2x, you get a 0/0 construct into the battlefield with X1 counters on it. So for every 2 mana, you get a counter. And whenever it dies, you put a 1/1 colorless Thopter creature with flying onto the battlefield for each 1/1 counter on it. And then you can pay 1 and tap it to put a 1/1 counter on. How about Hangerback Walker? Hangerback Walker is a great card to start off with. If you get it out on turn 2, you can keep getting it bigger and bigger. And it really pushes that, like, don't board wipe me, because you're still going to be behind. Because if my Hangerback Walker's at 5, 6, 7 1/1 counters, oh look, I get like 5, 6, 7 flyers that I can then use my Gandalf with, right? So, Mimknight, Ornithopter, Caminator, oh, this is not in English. This guy, let's fix that. Switch. Select English. Phyrexian Walker. There you go. Okay, so Mimknight's a 0 for a 1/1. Ornithopter's a 0 for a 0/2 with flying. And Phyrexian Walker's a 0 for a 0/3. Okay? Each one triggers Gandalf and get bigger with Gandalf's effects. They're not bad. Stonecoil Serpent. This is X for a 0/0 artifact creature snake. Reach, trample, protection from multicolored, which comes in handy. And the trample is not bad, for honest. And interested with that with external counters on. So again, early on, you play this as 1/1. Later on, you could drop this as a 6/6. Walking Ballista. Great card, fun idea. XX 0/0 construct. When it enters the battlefield with extra counters on it, pay 4, put a 1/1 counter on it, remove a 1/1 counter, deals 1 damage to target creature player. There are infinites, obviously, with Walking Ballista. That's not why we're running it here. You could cast this for 0, technically, to trigger Gandalf, which is usable. If you think, like, if you got a lot of creatures out, you can pay 0 and just kind of like, oh yeah, I got 10 creatures, that's 10 more damage, right? For free. But also Walking Ballista does this nice thing where like you could cast it for more, he could come bigger. And if you have extra mana, you can slowly make him bigger and bigger and more of a threat. Next is the 1-drops here. So we're going to get the Champion of the Paris. This is a white for a 1/1 human soldier. And whenever a human is the battlefield, you can put a 1 counter on Champion of the Paris. There's a lot of cheap humans. Being able to just get Champion of the Paris bigger and bigger and bigger is going to be useful over time. Okay. Next is Children of Keralos. This is one white for a 1/1 human rebel cleric. Sacrifice it. You gain life equal to the life we lost this turn. If an opponent was going to deal a lot of damage to you because you attacked them and they were able to swing back at you, but you don't die. Children of Keralos, you can sack to just go, oh, I'm going to actually gain the 20 life that you just dealt to me back. So it can be helpful. Also, it's just a 1-drop for a 1/1. Esper Citadel is 1 for a 1/1 human soldier. Whenever an opponent casts a spell, or casts their first non-creature spell each turn, draw a card. Unless they pay extra excess percentage power, you're not going to really get this too much bigger with Gandalf's effects on your opponent's turn. But it is a good card. You need that kind of card draw in this deck, and it really just allows you to get another cheap guy out early. Because even if you don't have Gandalf and you're not getting Gandalf stuff off, you do get a lot of creatures out that you can kind of just start swinging at people early with. Ginger Brute's one colorless or 1 generic for a 1/1 food golem with haste, and when it and you can pay 1 and it can't be blocked this turn except by creatures with haste, and pay 2 and tap it to sacrifice it to gain 3 life. So that second part, it happens. I've used it to not die in very narrow situations. But mainly being able to pay 1 just making sure it can't be blocked by creatures with haste is kind of interesting because that means a lot of things can't block it. So if you can get it big, maybe it can do a decent chunk to your opponent. Giver of Ruins is a white for a 1/2 core cleric. Tap another target creature you control gains protection from colorless or from the color of your choice until end of turn. Very interesting, honestly. It's not bad. It really does give you this protection. Or early on, it protects everything, all your important pieces. Later, it's just another guy that hits stuff with, or girl. Healer's Hawk is 1 for a 1/1 bird with flying and lifelink. This is just a nice cheap flyer that can come in, deal damage with Gandalf's effects pretty easily. And just kind of be a nuisance. Plus, the little extra life gain is never bad casually. Hopeful Initiate is a 1 white for a 1/2 human warlock with training, so whenever this creature attacks with another creature with greater power, put a 1/1 counter on this creature. Now that works because Gandalf is a 3/3, so this guy will get some counters. And then for 2 and a white, you can remove 2 1/1 counters from among creatures you control to destroy target artifact or enchantment. So technically, every 2 turns, you could start removing stuff. It's also just a pretty cheap hitter. Hope of Gerfried is 1 generic for a 1/1 legendary artifact creature Thopter with flying. So it's just a 1/1 flyer. Bottom line. But its other effect isn't bad. Sacrifice it until the next turn, or until your next turn. Target player who was dealt combat damage by it this turn can't cast non-creature spells. So if you do this, if you hit someone, you can't cast non-creature spells until my turn. So that just stops them from doing anything, honestly, unless they're a creature deck. But you wouldn't hit a creature deck and sacrifice it. So, Lunarch Veteran is a white for a 1/1 human cleric, and whenever another creature enters the battlefield you control, you gain a life. So that's just nice life gain. Disturb is 1 and a white, so you can cast this card from your graveyard and transform for its disturb cost. And its other side is a 1/1 flyer, and whenever another creature you control leaves the battlefield, you gain a life. And when it would be put into graveyard from anywhere exile instead. Just a nice way to just kind of gain life. Keep yourself alive against your opponents. Life gain is great casually, except if someone decides to run commander damage. So, Macias the Lurnok is actually kind of like your second coming of Gandalf. So this is X and a white for a 0/0 human cleric. When it enters, or enters with extra 1/1 counters on it, tap, put a 1/1 counter on it, tap, remove a 1/1 counter from it, put a 1/1 counter on each other creature you control. This just allows you to get stuff much bigger permanently for just constantly. Just let's keep getting stuff bigger and bigger. And being able to do that constantly allows the effects of Gandalf, that +1/+0, to not go to waste. Doing that to 1/1s is fine if you get 3 or 4 cards out, but if they're 3 3s, now getting the 3s out, now they're 6 6s. It's a little better. So Mother Ruins is the same thing as the core as Giver of Ruins. So Mother Ruins is 1 white for a white for a 1/1 human cleric. Tapping against target creature gains protection from your color of your choice until end of turn. The difference is core can choose colorless, but can't target itself. So, Sovereign Angel is 1 for a 1/1 human angel with flying and vigilance. This is just, again, another 1 for a 1/1 with flying. Not bad, being able to hit people in the air. Selfless Savior is 1 for a 1 white for a 1/1 dog, and you can sacrifice another target creature against destruction until turn. Let's just keep Gandalf on the field. Sirius Indit is great. This is 1 white for a 1/1 human monk with lifelink, and as long as you have 30 more life, it gets +++5 and has flying. Faith, yeah. So the cool thing about this is that it just comes out in Commander big, so it's just a 6/6 lifelink. So you're going to gain a lot of life. That was my cat. She was being silly. So this is a really good card and a beat 'em up deck. Signal Priest is great. This is 1 generic for a 0/1 pest. Signal Pest, my bad. Battle cry. So whenever this creature attacks, each other attacking creature gets +1/+0 to the turn, and it can't be blocked except by creatures with flying or reach. This is basically giving it flying without giving it flying, so it doesn't lose flying if you say creatures lose flying, which is why they never changed the wording. But yeah, it's interesting. I like it because, again, if you're going wide, this is going to give you, like, if you got 10 creatures, that's 10 more damage on the field, so that's not bad. Skrelv Defector Might is the last one of these protecting cards. This is 1 white for a 1/1 legendary artifact creature, Phyrexian Might with Toxic 1, which gives them a poison counter if they get hit. 1 poison counter. It can't be blocked, or it can't block, and for 1 Phyrexian White, so for either white or 2 life, you can tap it, choose a color, another target creature you control gains Toxic 1, and hexproof from the color until the turn. It can't be blocked by creatures of that color this turn. So, yeah, like, it does its job a little less than them. The Toxic doesn't really matter in this deck. I guess technically you could give it to something with flying, and then, like, in 10 turns win, but I honestly just like the chances, like, maybe against a life gain deck. Maybe, but probably not. So, it's here because it's protecting a cheap creature. Soul Attendant and Soul Warden both gain you a life whenever another creature enters the battlefield, and they're 1 white for a 1/1. Speaker of Heavens is 1 white for a 1/1 human cleric with vigilance and lifelink, and you can tap it, create a 4/4 white angel creature token with flying. Activate this ability only if you have at least 7 life more than your starting life total, and only anytime you can cast a sorcery. This is fine. You have a lot of accent to life gain in this deck, so you're going to get to 47 plus life pretty easily. And that's going to let you make a 4/4 each turn. And a 4/4 each turn is going to help you win the game slowly. Thraben Inspector is 1 white for a 1/2 human soldier, and enters the battlefield you investigate. So you get a clue that you can sack. So it replaces itself. But it's a 1/2, so it's not bad. Universal Automaton is just 1 generic for a 1/1. It's fine. It is a changeling, which might come in handy with some combinations here or there. It does, like, it's a human, so it does trigger, like, your human further up. But, like, I mean, it's a generic for a 1/1. Not bad. Weathered Wayfarer is great. This is 1 white for a 1/1 human nomad cleric, and you tap it to sacrifice it, search the library for a land card, reveal and put it in your hand, then shuffle. Activate only if opponent controls more lands than you. So if an opponent controls more lands than you, someone's playing a land deck or something, making sure you hit your landfalls isn't bad. And that's why he's kind of here. Plus, he's, again, another creature. And now we're getting to our 2-drops. Archivist of Ogma is 1 white for a 2/2 human or halfling cleric with flash. And whenever an opponent searches their library, you gain 1 life and draw a card. You might think there's not as much tutoring in casual, but honestly, there's probably more, seeing as a lot of people run land ramp. So Archivist of Ogma says, yo, I'm going to gain a life and draw a card off of you searching for land. So, really good card, honestly, casually, and I think people sleep on it. Sure, it doesn't do as much against, like, if you end up not playing against a green deck, so. Or, like, not a lands deck, so. But against the lands deck, you're going to draw a lot of cards. So it's kind of like a silver bullet casually. Spirited Companions, 1 white for a 1/1 dog. When it enters the battlefield, you draw a card. This is great. These kind of like draw cards are great in this sense because you're going to replace itself, which might be another card that you can then cast to trigger your commander. Zenith Chronicler is 2 generic for a 3/1 Phyrexian construct, and whenever a player casts their first multicolor spell each turn, each other player draws a card. So this does help your opponent. You're never going to trigger it because you're monocolored. But it's interesting because not a lot of people play multicolored spells. Like, there's a very small list of multicolored spells people run, unless their deck's based around it. But it is kind of fun to get some card off of it. And it's 2 for a 3/1. I thought it was interesting. Now we're going to get to some 3-drops. Burnish Hearts, 3 for a 2/2 elk. With for 3, you can sacrifice and search your library for 2 basic land cards, put it on the bottom tap, then shuffle. Burnish Heart just It's a lot of people look at it and go, it's not worth playing anymore. In my opinion, in like mono white, it's pretty good because there's not a lot of ramp, and this is gonna ramp you. And if you don't need the ramp, you get a 3-drop 2/2, which can get buffed. Okay, Heliod Sunground. Yes, we are running the Heliod combo with Walking Ballista because they're both good cards separately in this deck. So Heliod Sunground is 2 and a white for a 5/5 god. Indestructible as long as your devotion is less than 5 to white is less than 5. It's not a creature, and whenever you gain life, you put a 1 counter on target creature or enchantment you control, and for 1 and a white, another target creature gains lifelink until its turn. Heliod can really just get your stuff really big. And then if you happen to draw into both pieces, you can just win the game if you have the mana, which is kind of fun. Like, and you have a way to just end the game if you really just need to. But overall, they're both just good cards. And that's where I'm, like, okay with combos. Like, I'm not tutoring for them. I'm not searching for them. It's like, if I ran into them, cool. Right? Heliod's hard to remove, okay? Then if I find Walking Ballista 3 or 4 turns later, yeah, I win, okay? If you don't stop me. But other than that, yeah, Heliod just does a lot because we have a lot of action in life gain. That's going to be a lot of 1/1 counters being moved around. Howling Golem's cool. This is 3 generic for a 2/3 Golem. When it attacks or blocks, each player draws a card. This isn't bad. That little hug effect in white's fine. You're not going to let a casual deck run away with it, but it's going to give you a little card draw, which you kind of need. Inspiring Overseer is 2 and a white for a 2/1 Angel Cleric with flying, and when it enters the battlefield, gain a life, draw a card. Again, this just allows you to cast another creature, possibly, and it's got flying, which isn't bad. Lauren of the Third Path is a pet card of mine. I love this card so much. This is 2 and a white for a 2/1 Human Cleric with Vigilance, and when it enters the battlefield, destroy up to 1 target artifact or enchantment, which is great. But then you can tap it, and you and target opponent each draw a card. And what's fun is it has Vigilance, so it can attack, and then you can tap it. And people don't want to kill it because you can be like, let me get through, and I'll draw you a card. We can both draw a card. People are like, oh yeah, I'll do it. Any card that allows me to bargain is fun. I love communicating with my players. It's just table talk is part of the game, and I love it so much. Mentor of the Meek is great. This is 2 and a white for a 2/2 Human Soldier. Whenever a creature with power 2 or less enters the battlefield under your control, you may pay 1. If you do, draw a card. This just allows you to really go off and tumble out the world. A Priest of Ancient Lore is 2 and a white for a 2/1 Dwarf Cleric, and when it enters the battlefield, you gain a life and draw a card. Again, triggers all the life gain and draws you a card, so you can keep going. Rumor Gatherer is 1 and 2 white for a 2/1 Elf Wizard, and it has Alliance. Whenever another creature enters the battlefield under your control, scry 1. If this is the second time this ability has resolved this turn, draw a card. So you always scry 1. The second time, though, you do draw a card. So Scanner, or Sky Scanner, is 3 generic for a 1/1 Thopter, and when it has flying, and when it enters the battlefield, you draw a card. So replaces itself, not bad, with the flying. The Gaffer, this is 2 and a white for a 2/3 Halfling Peasant. And at the beginning of each instep, if you gained 3 or more life this turn, draw a card. You gain excellent life. This is going to get you a card each turn. It's not bad. I like the turnips. It also just works with food, which is kind of fun. But Welcoming Vampire is 2 and a white for a 2/3 Vampire with flying. And whenever one or more creatures with power 2 or less into the battlefield under your control, draw a card. This ability triggers only once each turn. This is going to keep giving you at least 1 card each turn, which is not bad. Helps you get more damage out. Plus, it's got flying. Mangara, the Diplomat, is starting our 4s. We got 3 of them. This is a 3 and a white for a 2/4 Human Cleric with lifelink. And if an opponent attacks you, or attacks with creatures, if 2 or more of those creatures are attacking you, or planes you control, draw a card. So if they decide to get revenge on you while you have Mangara up, you get some cards. And then whenever an opponent casts their second spell each turn, you draw a card, which is great. A lot of people cast more than 1 spell. Master of Ceremonies is a great card. I love this card. 3 and a white for a 3/4 Rhino Druid. At the beginning of your upkeep, each opponent chooses money, friends, or secrets. For each player who chooses money, you and that player each create a treasure token. For each player who chooses friends, you and that player each create 1/1 and create a 1/1 green and white citizen creature token. And for each player who chooses secrets, you and that player each draw a card. So you will either... A lot of times I've seen I draw 3 and they each draw 1. But a lot of times they won't choose secrets because they'll make a pact and not do that because they're like, we can't have them drawn 2 cards. That's not worth it. So that's just all... Like, they can either take the diff and just choose citizens, which is bad against my deck. Normally it's the best choice. Oh yeah, we'll choose friends and we'll get 1/1s and you get 3 1/1s. But 3 1/1s for me, with Gandalf, they're going to go big. They're going to get big and scary. So your best choice is mana. Because that's going to keep me down and I'm going to have to find a way to draw. So that's your best bet there that people are going to find out, but someone's going to break and choose secrets, which will draw you a card. And last is Solid Simulacrum. This is a sad robot needs no introduction. 4 generic for a 2/2 golem. When it enters the battlefield, you may search your library for a basic land card, put it in the middle of the top, and when it dies, you draw a card. So, pretty good. Those are the creatures, and we're going to get on to the non-creatures now. Non-creatures. We got 2 of them. Sorceries. Austere Command and Farewell. There's just some controversy about Farewell, whether or not it should be on the bracket or the that one list of cards you should, game changers, because it kind of just stops the game. But yeah, so Austere Command's cool. This is 4 and 2 white for a sorcery. Choose 2. Destroy all artifacts, all enchantments, all creatures with mana value 3 or less, or all creatures with mana value 4 or greater. Normally you choose the 4 or greater, and then like an artifact or enchantment is kind of like probably enchantments just to slow your opponents down. And Farewell, you choose which one you want. Yes, you can just completely clear off the field if you need to. I don't like doing that. I like to choose everything but creatures and just kind of go like, yeah, okay, none of those are there. Maybe not enchantments. Maybe you just choose enchantments in graveyards. But you choose the problematic ones. And that's why Farewell is not so bad, because you're the one dictating it. Yeah, if someone wants to be mean and choose all of them, that's on them. Stop playing with that player probably. But like, honestly, outside of that, you can really kind of just push to just clear what you don't need. Some instances, we got Path to Exile and Swords to Plowshares. They do very similar things. They both are 1 white. They both exile target creature. And the difference is Exile gives that player a basic land on the battlefield tapped, and Swords gives them life equal to their power. Generous Gift is 2 and a white for an instant, destroy target permanent. Its control against a 3/3 green elephant creature token. Interferes Protection is 2 and a white for an instant. Until your next turn, your life total can't change, and you gain protection from everything. All permanents you control phase out, exile it. So, yeah, this just means you can't be touched. And your opponents can't be, your cards can't be touched. So, it kind of makes it hard to just end you. You just kind of phase. You're just protected. So, good card, strong card. It is a game changer, as you can see. So, some artifacts. We got some good ones. Everflowing Chalice is 0 for an artifact with multi-kick 2. It hits the battlefield with a charge count on it for each time it was kicked, and it taps for a colorless for each card on it. This is pretty good later on, and even early on. Skull Clamp, this is 1 for an artifact equipment. Equipped creature gets +1/-1. Whenever equipped creature dies, draw 2 cards. Equip 1. This is pretty interesting because you can Skull Clamp your smaller guys so that you can just get more cards into your hand to try to find your better cards and just kind of like keep going. Soul Ring is 1 for an 1 generic for an artifact that taps for 2 colorless. Wafer's Baubles, 1 generic for an artifact. From 2, you can tap it to sack it to go grab a basic land and put it on the battlefield tapped. Arcane Signets, 2 generic for an artifact that taps for your commander's color identity. Farewell, Felwar Stone is 2 generic for an artifact that taps for any color of land your opponent can produce. Lightning Greaves is 2 generic for an equipment that's equipped creature gains haste and shroud, and it's equipped to 0. And Swiffer Boots is 2 for an equipment, and it gets hexproof and haste, and equipment is 1. Equip is 1. Mind Stone is 2 generic for an artifact. Tap, add a colorless, pay 1 and tap it, and sacrifice and draw a card. Swords of the Animist is 2 generic for an artifact, for legendary artifact equipment. Equipped creature gets +1/+1, but whenever it attacks, you get to go search your library for a basic land card and put it in the battle tap. This is just ramping each turn. And Thought Vessel is your last ramp piece here. Your last, like, basic, like, mana store in here. This is 2 for an artifact. 2 generic for an artifact. You have no maximum hand size and it taps for colorless. Again, this is all good. You're running a lot of low to the ground colorless cards, so really helps there. And 2 enchantments here. This is going to be your Ghostly Prison and your Smothering Tide. So Ghostly Prison is 2 and a white for enchantment. Creatures can't attack you unless their controller pays 2 generic for each creature they control that's attacking you. This stops them from attacking you early on or from like trying to get into you too fast. And Smothering Tides, this is great. It's another game changer, obviously. But 3 and a white for an enchantment. Whenever an opponent draws a card, that player may pay 2. If that player doesn't, you create a treasure token. So that's just good mana advantage right there. So. The lands, there's actually some interesting lands here, so I will go over them in a second here. Okay, so let's go over some of the interesting, utility lands. Bonder's Clive is, normally taps for colorless, but for 3 you can draw a card if a creature you control has power 4 or greater. This helps because I think your commander is a 4/4? Now he's a 3/3, but you can get him bigger as soon as you cast 1 spell, so that'll allow you to draw cards. Geyer's Rink Sanatorium allows you to just pay 2 for each player to draw a card and discard a card, so that gives you some card selection. Mikokori, Center of the Sea. You can pay 2 for each player to draw a card. Reliquary Tower just gives you no maximum hand size. Rogue's Passage, you can pay 4 to make a creature unblockable. And War Room draws your card. You can pay 3, pay life, you go to the number of colors in your commander, so in this case 1, and then you draw a card. So just a few like land draw effects, which are pretty useful. But overall, the idea behind Gandalf White Rider is that the scrying happens generically, so whenever you cast a spell, creatures you control, but you just run a lot of creatures. So the first turn you're like creatures, like you just slowly get creatures, then Gandalf hits the field, and then the next turn, like if you play a creature, they're all going to get +1/+1. The ones that you already played. And if you play a second one, they're a little bit more. So you're just going to poke at your opponents. Slowly poke at your opponents, dealing damage, scrying, so you make sure you hit what you need. Need my land drop, scry for land. Don't need the land drop, scry for a creature. Try to find those creatures that draw you more cards. And there's a few more cards out there nowadays that would help this deck that you could definitely work on. But if you're looking for a low-to-the-ground, just like casual white weenie deck, that's where this is. If you want to upgrade this a little bit, make it a little stronger, right? Hate Bears. That's what I'll say. Hate Bears. You just run the Hate Bears. If you want to infinite with Gandalf, any infinite recasting or infinite casting spell, so infinite spellcast, will make your creatures infinitely big. And then you just need like 3 flyers usually to win the game. So that works. So those are 2 ways you can kind of like focus on Gandalf and make him stronger where you do that. But I didn't want to do that with this. I wanted to focus mainly on creatures and just kind of make this kind of like goofy, like, oh yeah, look at me. Here's my Endless one for 1. Here's my Walking Ballista for 2. Here's my a Champion of the Paris, and you just kind of have these like silly little creatures. And like, yeah, as you go along, the fun thing about building this deck like this is like every time there's a new silly little creature, you're like, I like that silly little creature better than this one. Replace. And that kind of just gives you something to look forward to. Building decks that like, having enough decks that you're looking forward to like even the commons in like the next set is so fun. Like the commons, the uncommons, where you go, oh, this will fit so well in my Gandalf White Rider deck, guys. You don't understand how fun this stupid little 1/3 flyer with vigilance, and you can tap and sack it and target creature or target opponent. Mills 4 cards. Why? I don't know, but something stupid like that's just fun. So the stupider, the more fun. I love this type of stuff. It's not a great deck. I'll let you know that when you build it this way, but it's a fun deck. I like fun decks. So, yeah, that's Gandalf White Rider. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and let me know what you think about Gandalf White Rider. Peace.